All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Palantir Weekly. I am here again with three lovely people. We've got Emir, we've got Arny, Matt might be joining us in a bit, and we've got an OG guest who some of you may remember. A lot of you guys probably are seeing him for the first time today. But Holland, who I connected with on YouTube back in early 2022, he started buying Palantir around that $7-8 range. And he's still part of the community today. Holland, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. Super excited. First 10, 15 minutes, Holland might have to get out of here after that. We just wanted to ask him some questions about 2025 and his experience with Palantir over the past couple of years, but also everything that Palantir's went through. I think the last time you came on, I think Palantir was at 50, maybe. And I don't think we've spoken since then. We went all the way up to 125. Now we're back down to 90. So kind of broad question. You started buying at single digits. What is it like now that Palantir is basically $90?
Man, everything you said was just...
Okay, Emir and Arny, you heard me, right?
Yep.
Let me try to relog.
Yeah, relog
the link you sent me, can I relog onto it?
Yeah. Just exit and leave, and we'll go back.
All right. So I'll try to read.
Holland is not in the United States, so they're tariffing his internet, which is anyway, you two, Emir, Arny, what's up?
Yeah. Well, such a different mood from last week, where we had the expectation of a Black Monday 2.0. It turned out that at the opening, it was kind of terrifying. I mean, I needed to use a preventive cappuccino and croissant to prevent the pain. And it turns out that, we are still alive.
Long time no see, folks. Last week I was unfortunately ill, so I couldn't make it. But yeah, interesting week. A lot of things happening outside. The most bullish thing for me is when we had Bill Ackman capitulate and go on a meltdown on X, when Dan Ives went on a total meltdown about the tariff policy or tariff approach, he downgraded Tesla. Guess which company he didn't downgrade? I know. Palantir, baby. Still, he didn't downgrade Palantir, but Tesla, he slashed in half. So even Dan Ives know that even when things are rough, you don't touch Palantir. So, yeah, a lot of interesting things. I've been buying Palantir for the first time since $28. That's my first actual real buy. I've made some trades around earnings when I was confident, but actual real buy since 28. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff happened.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about your buy and how that worked out. All right, let's see if Holland is good. Is this better?
Hey, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, can you hear us? Let me try.
Can you hear me?
Okay, can you hear us?
Yeah, it's. I think a Colombian Friday night. The internet's acting weird.
Okay, but what's 1 + 1?
No, it's still choppy.
Damn.
But
okay, so can you hear me right now? No.
I'll tell you what, Alvin. I'll try to figure it out, and I'll dial in next week. What do you say?
All right. Yeah, no worries.
All right.
No worries at all.
Not my fault.
Not
Thanks for
your fault.
inviting me on, man.
Of course.
See you, Holland.
Always welcome. Yep.
Ciao.
All right, cool. So let's get right into it then. Emir, let's start with your buy. You bought at 65. You got at least what seems to be the bottom. Why'd you buy Palantir for the first time since 28?
Look, I made this tracker of every company that I valued recently. So my up-to-date valuations, and it's all high quality companies. I'm okay, things are crashing now. And you know me, I'm not an emotional investor. I'm not I gotta buy the dip. No, I take a methodical approach to it. So I looked at all the charts and I saw, okay, what is undervalued and what is overvalued. And Palantir was overvalued by 4% on Friday. So I made this YouTube video. I'm okay, Palantir might not be undervalued by 80% like Robinhood, but Palantir is like so much higher quality than a lot of these businesses and has a lot more potential. So as long as it goes undervalued, I'm willing to buy. And I said, if Monday was predicted to be this like Black Monday type opening event, like if you were on X, like all these institutional investors were capitulating more or less. Everyone was really bearish, calling it like, yeah, Black Monday is coming. Jim Cramer, like everyone basically was super bearish. I'm like, yeah, if it trades below a fair intrinsic value, like I'll be making my first Palantir buy. Monday open came, like tanked, like we're talking tanked. And I was like, okay. So I purchased it at 65. Of course, those shares are doing pretty well right now, but it's not like about, yeah, I'm happy I did well for 1 week because I'm not planning on selling like Palantir at all. So I'm just happy to be able to accumulate more, but I'm still having this approach where I only want to accumulate more if I like pay less than it's worth to me. And my like fair value already incorporates like it's a high quality business, they're doing a lot of things in government, like all of these things are already incorporated to that. So yeah, I was very happy to be buying Palantir for the first time. And just quickly, Palantir, as we all know, it's really anti-fragile that we used to talk about like through all the years. Like it thrives in a crisis and it thrives outside of a crisis, like when it's built for tough times and also for prosperous times. So I kind of compare it to one of my other favorite types of business, which is credit ratings. Like when the economy is really bad, people take on a lot of credit. And when the economy is booming, people and businesses also take on a lot of credit. So that's why I felt like, yeah, Palantir here, it's pretty tariff proof, in my opinion. So yeah, that's the story around buying Palantir for the first time. Like, do you guys even remember last time you bought Palantir? Like, this was my first buy since 28.
It was at this price, but it was in the end of January. So, but it.
Oh, you bought this year, actually. I thought you were like hands off since like.
No, it wasn't
like
a big.
kind of.
It wasn't a big buy. It was just something to round out like my OCD with the number of shares I had.
Yeah, even numbers.
I think it was at like 62, but it was January, and then February took off. Arny, I don't think you've bought in a while. You've just been.
Well, in the main account where I just essentially have like the shares I don't touch, no. But in the other account, the one that I'm tracking, yes, I don't know exactly. I can check.
It's so funny. I've met multiple people that have a Palantir account with like shares they don't touch, like shares that are just like, this is off limits. I don't care what happens. I'm not like I've met multiple people that have those types of accounts.
I mean, touching those shares have been already multi-$1,000 mistakes, so I better not touch them super seriously.
I'm never touching Palantir again. Like I used to do trimming back in the day, like in like the 18s or 20s when I thought it was worth $10. I'm not touching Palantir.
It's my approach. Everyone a lesson to just not touch it. I think we got Holland back again. Let's see. Let's give it a try. Is this working?
All right, can you hear me now?
We always could hear you.
Yeah, it's just when you were talking, it was like blah, 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 blah.
Okay, now it's perfect.
It was all choppy. I hear it perfectly now.
Okay, cool. So
Right.
Holland, Palantir OG, early days buying single digits. Stock's at 90 now. If you want to just introduce yourself to everyone, and then what does it feel like now that Palantir's $90?
Yeah, I'm Holland. Probably should start it off with a bit of a confession. I lost a lot of shares at $100. I was selling covered calls, and just one of them got really away from me, and I lost about half my position on it.
But are you really upset about that, or you're happy you locked in those gains?
Yeah, it ended up because I've already bought more than half of them back. There's a psychological time period where I care about my average, but when it hit that level, then selling it at 100 and buying it at 75 and 70 and
it's not that bad.
Yeah,
average doesn't matter, so you just need to tell yourself that.
At the time, I was, I was kind of fearful because, I was like, it's going to go to 150, it's going to go to 200. I'll never get it back. But yeah, I'm buying it back at a 25, 30% discount. Yeah, I'm all right. It was
And
unintentional.
your average was like $10 for everybody, right?
My average was about 12.
Okay. So, I mean, the point is you've been in for a long time. So here's the broader question. Like, did you expect to see 100 anytime? I mean, this had to pass your wildest expectations.
Absolutely, I expected to see it. I didn't expect to see it that quickly. You remember a year ago at $40, I was like, hey, what do you think about this? This is kind of making me nervous. I intuitively had a sort of synchronization with Palantir. I always kind of knew where it was going. And I lost that when it went over 40. It escaped me entirely, you know what I mean? And the amount of time it took to recover during the whole it's not profitable inflation scare, to get from 10 to 20 and hold it to hold 25 to go to 100. I mean, I got caught off sides on it, but I did make a lot of money. I did make a lot of money on it.
You also just got married, so shout out to Holland. Officially,
Congrats.
Officially is now a husband. Here's my question on that. Do you think she married you for the Palantir shares or because she likes you?
No. Here's the thing too. About a year, it was the day of earnings. Palantir was at $19. She told me to sell it all. 1920. This had to have been around like August or something of last year. Maybe she was like, sell it. I was like, nah, fuck no. And they reported.
It's so funny, dude, because it's like you're just like, no, you don't get it. You don't get what I understand. You don't get it.
So they reported, and it went up like 19% after hours.
Yeah.
Then she took on the mantle of the Palantir unshakable champion. So then when I was selling calls, I had her and my mom busting my balls all the time. You know what I mean? Just you would not believe the grief that I endured from these two women about selling calls on Palantir.
But they know what the premise of selling calls means. They understood, like you could lose the shares.
They know that I might possibly lose shares.
Mm.
And in their minds, you're losing it and you don't even get anything out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was trying to tell them, no, I'm mitigating risk. I'm doing this. And so her and my mom conspired. And by the time I lost shares at $100, I had made the dumbest mistake of my life. And then I went through like a month of like, where are you going to find the next Palantir, moron?
Yeah, it's so easy to find this generational company completely unique. Like they're just like everywhere. So easy.
No, but I relate to it too. My sister asks me every day, and I'm like, yo, this is not just some little game where you just find this thing. Like it's hard.
When those claws got called away, it would have cost me about $85,000 to roll them.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean?
But dude, from 12 to 100, like, yeah, it sucks, but it also doesn't suck that much.
It doesn't. It's a fantastic trade. It's a fantastic trade. And me losing those shares had nothing to do with my outlook on the company. That's why I was kind of gutted about it. I think they're going to go on to do great things. Their trajectory is obvious.
Yeah.
What are they suddenly going to suck? What's that, Arny?
No, now we really understand what is the biggest financial risk of Palantir that we never talk about, listening to women.
No, actually, I was gonna say my wife has been the active buyer of Palantir. Like I'm like, dude, it's overvalued here. She's like, oh, okay, if you say so. And then she's been buying like in the 50s, 40s, like as it was going up. I'm like, I don't know, man, it's overvalued to me. And she just kept buying and buying. So she's actually the one that put on the Palantir pants in this household and has been kept buying and doing pretty well. So
I always ask myself why you are here with us and we don't have your wife.
Yeah, she's been outperforming me hard, and it kind of hurts the ego, But
She's somewhere.
Okay, Holland, let me ask you this question then. What do you think about the company? What do you think about like what has happened, the earnings reports, the growth, the free cash flow margin? I mean, like, what is your current perception of this company right now?
If I had to just like go on Spidey sense, I think we might get a little bit of a slowdown. Like if overall spending slows down, if there's a bit of pullback, and I don't think that will be permanent for them. I think that a lot of the contracts that they do with companies, these companies start to see the benefits of it immediately. But I think for other companies, it takes time for it to become obvious to them. And so actually one of my favorite investments, and I like investing in companies that Palantir has big partnerships with.
Right.
And I think that, as time goes on, you'll see that differentiation between companies that lean into great technology versus companies that lean into mediocre technology versus companies that have just got it all wrong. And that probably, and this could be another 2 or 3 years from now, will probably be the point where Palantir becomes a must-have. Now, we've sped up that process because, when Palantir has a great earnings call and everyone's talking about it and it's, one of the most active stocks, every CEO sees that.
Yeah.
So that put them on the radar of everyone, of everyone. So now they're getting checked out by people a lot sooner than I had anticipated that happening.
Yeah, I agree. I think the earnings and the overall momentum and the stock going up. I mean, people just want to be associated with Palantir. I think all of us have realized that that's like this organic marketing that has started to work for them as well. And I think all of us thought that would inevitably happen, but it happened in 2 years, right? And we thought it would happen probably in like a decade. So
Many of the ways that we kind of thought about Palantir is they've got the best people and they get these great clients and they build these great platforms with them and they get outside results. What has happened in the last year is that's actually been accelerated.
Yeah.
Because now with the acclaim that they've earned and the way that they've proved themselves, not so much more likely that they'll continue to get the best employees. And that, companies that have data problems or haven't figured out how they're going to move into the modern world and make sense of it all, it's much more likely that they'll turn to Palantir because it's it's not a household name. But I would be surprised if there are any CEOs in a Fortune 500 company that haven't heard of it now. When you and I started investing in it, there were many. There were many of them that didn't know what the hell it was or what they did. It's changed drastically in a short amount of time. Kind of a snowball effect.
Why, in like a couple sentences, why did you invest in them in 2022?
I do things by intuition, It's just, suddenly it just feels right. And it's like the conversation that you and I had today about Hood.
Yeah.
Hood left a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't have an account with them. They didn't burn me. They burned people I knew. I was very active in that time when the meme stocks were spiking and stuff. I was making, and I knew people that got burned on that deal. Kind of got burned on them because I had some real cheap Nvidia. What is it? What's the telecom
GameStop?
company from Sweden?
I forgot. I know what you're talking about, but I forgot.
Nikola.
Oh, that was the EV company. Yeah.
Yeah, I had some real cheap shares of that, and it spiked up up to $6. I could have sold it at 100%, but I was playing Red Dead Redemption. And when I got off, Hood had apparently restricted the amount that could be sold. And kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. So, in my opinion, it was scamish or something like that. And then I ignored them. And it wasn't until your interview with Vlad that I gave them a second look. And now I'm an investor in Hood too. With Palantir, it was similar. I have a really good friend. He's almost like a savant at options. The problem is he just cannot control his risk appetite. So you could give the dude $50, and I swear to you, in 6 months he'll have 5 or 10,000, and then 100,000 and 300,000. But before he becomes master of the world, he'll blow it up.
Yeah.
But he's just brilliant, and he kept harping on me to look into it. And when I did, I just felt it. You know what I mean?
You invested on vibes. And in
like-
2022, realistically, there was only vibes. Everything was dead, right? So it's kind of just you go.
I think it was about 2 months after their DPO that I started buying, and shit, I'm still buying now.
Oh, so
I
that
was
was
selling
2020.
cash equivalent. I was selling cash equivalent puts today to buy more.
I love it. Okay, last question for you, Holland, and then you can stay if you want. If not, then you can dip. How do you think the perception of Palantir has changed from when we were investing to today? Alex Karp, I think objectively has become a rock star. Like how do you think that whole brand transition has gone for the company?
Well, right about the time Palantir should have shown. Right about the time it was really. I don't think that they went public on a whim. Like let's just suck up a bunch of money so that we can put along until we make this company work. I think they went public because they knew that they had the longevity, that it was a company that could survive. And it was just fucking terrible luck. The time at which they DP, not that 6 month period, that was great, but after that.
Yeah.
So they went into a period where, company, the market cared less and less about growth, and it forced their hand to become GAAP profitable sooner.
Yep.
And some of the SPAC things that they invested in, they weren't terrible ideas. It was just the timing was terrible.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was disastrous for them, and it lost them a lot of faith and everything like that. But I think in the long term, might have been the best thing for them, because here they are, the public traded company. My sense of Alex Karp is he doesn't not like to lose, and he doesn't like to let people down. It's important to him. He does not like to let people down. And
he started talking more about this concept of winning is important. Like in multiple interviews over the past month, it's like he's kind of saying like this idea of like, oh, you can fail and then you feel good about failing. It's like, no, like you need to fucking win. And he's very serious about that. And I think that's showing that he realizes that Palantir is winning, and he knows the other companies aren't. And he's just being objective that if you win, you should keep winning and you should brag about winning.
He strikes me as a person that if you were to gain his loyalty, it'd probably be lifelong.
Yeah.
And if you were to piss the dude off, really, like people that shit all over the company during those kind of downtimes and stuff like that, he'd probably never forgive you. And one of his great sources of joy would be to rub your face in how wrong you were.
Which is why I think he loves retail, because we stuck by the company, but he shits on the analysts because they all left it for dead.
Sure. It's sort of like why he still won't do a Kramer interview.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no reason why wouldn't he goes on CNBC often enough. He won't do a Kramer interview because Kramer talked a bunch of stupid shit about the company. Really, kind of out of a position of ignorance, and I think Karp's washed his hands with the dude. With the dude.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you for giving your thoughts. I know this journey's been pretty incredible for you. Obviously, you made a lot of friends on the journey. We became friends through all of this stuff, and it's just been really cool to meet people across the entire world that bonded over this one concept of Palantir. It ended up being a stock that also created some wealth for people, but it's just been super cool following the whole journey.
Did you get your ass kicked the last 2 weeks?
Oh, I think we all got our ass kicked over the last 2 weeks.
I did pretty good, dude. All things considered.
Holland is a master option seller, so he's been collecting the premiums really nicely.
I find now where I'm best off is take about 30% for long-term investments, things like Palantir, but I can't find a new one. And I've looked for it. I still have not found anything that resonates with me like Palantir did when I first got into it. Nowhere near it. Nowhere near it.
If
you want to
anyone,
find it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if anyone managed to find a new Palantir, please let me know.
Please let all of us know.
They don't grow on trees.
Yeah, but I guess all of you keep receiving the question, oh, but what's next? Or what's your next Palantir, as Holland was saying before? And probably the answer is, oh, just study Palantir.
Yeah. Why are we looking for the next Palantir when we have Palantir right here? Like,
yeah, I'm trying to build back my 10, 15, 20,000 shares again in Palantir after losing a bit. You know what I mean?
So now what? You're left with what, like 10,000? That's the position?
I'm about 6 right now.
All right.
But and then some weeks I'll lose some, and then some weeks I'll get them back. I'll say this, and with something like Palantir, if I had tried to time Palantir throughout these 3 years, I would have lost out on a lot of money. It's only been working out for me recently. Don't try it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's only been working out because of the flatness in the entire market. So that's why covered calls are working. But last year, if you tried to time that damn thing, I mean, just the gains were gone off the table.
Or then I could fill out my position again.
So in the end, it's better to have a selling put option on Palantir rather than selling call, right?
Well, for example, when is Palantir's earnings?
Most likely middle of May. We don't have a date yet, but probably.
What would you say? It was February 2nd last time, right?
No, it's like May 10th or something around that week.
Amit has a good poker face. We already know they're flying him out. He's gonna sit there in person with carp, all this planned out. He's like, oh, I don't know, maybe middle of May. I don't know.
They have never flown me out. I paid for my ticket, my hotel, everything. But no, it usually happens in May. Usually in May.
Yeah, but it's not a bad income earner. So with a couple $100,000 on the sideline, I can sell cash to code puts for Palantir. 70, 65, 70, things like that, and make an extra $3,500 a week from that one contract. And then as you stack up the contracts, go a month out and sell it at 110, you're probably good for another $3,700. And I live in Colombia. That extra $8,000 a month isn't fucking bad here, dude.
Dude, like $1,000 in Colombia is technically what, like 5,000 in terms of its value, or
the U.S. dollar, which has gone down because but actually the peso went down more than the U.S. dollars. The U.S. dollar is about 4,300 pesos, Colombian pesos.
Wow. Yeah,
you're really how much does it feel like? What you can purchase with $1,000 in the US? How much earnings power, like spending power, you have there? Just to give a sense.
Well, having just got married, we're in that thing where we have to get furniture and stuff like that, and I don't like buying cheap shit. And it's not that I'm some high roller or something like that. It's just I don't like buying cheap stuff for the same reason I did like buying Palantir. because I don't want I don't want I don't want something that's gonna break or not work in a month or something like that. But I don't know, like this is the downstairs of it, and then look right out this balcony. You have the whole Caribbean in front of you,
Wow.
and then upstairs because it's a penthouse. You have a way bigger balcony of all of the Caribbean. But yeah, the wife's buying furniture and oh fuck it. No matter how much I make,
It's never
it's
enough.
somehow magically, that exact amount of money ends up on the credit card at the end of the month.
Well, but that's why you married her. At the end of the day, you love her enough.
There is a weird thing too that I think I kind of intuitively knew because of the way that my mother helped my father. My father was a very brilliant person. He started at Jacobs Engineering as an electrician helper. And then he became an electrician and an electrician foreman, a general foreman, a superintendent, a general superintendent, a project manager, like vice president. He just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. And if it had only been my father alone, I don't think he would have done it. But marrying my mom, she somehow spurred it on.
Mm.
So having got married, there's this weird sort of magic that happens with it that no matter how much the girl spends, you make more.
I love it. Holland, thank you for joining, brother. Appreciate it. Palantir OG. Yeah, his Twitter right here in the chat. If anyone wants to follow him, he tweets about the markets, Palantir, all that stuff. So you can follow him right here as well.
All right. Well, next time we won't talk about Palantir. Let's talk about other companies, and I'll tell you what I'm doing.
All right, love it. Enjoy your week, bro.
I'm cleaning out about 5,500 to 7,500 a week in premiums.
All right,
it's not bad for.
It'll be a good conversation. Yeah, it's definitely not bad in Colombia either. All right, talk later.
See ya, man. Someone commented, did they join the right stream? Is this a therapy session?
All right, cool. So last thing we finished with was why Emir bought Palantir. I guess, Arny, what was your reaction to the 30% reversal on Palantir this week?
Well, I can't say I was expecting that, but I saw there were high probabilities of the market to flip for many different reasons. But the most important one was probably that I saw, as Emir was saying, everybody capitulating. I think no exception on Wall Street, when even you see Dan Ives and Tom Lee actually being, I wouldn't say mad, but quite pissed off. And when I start feeling that pain in the stomach, even if I know it's all momentary, like temporary, even if I know, okay, in reality, the company is not hurt, actually can benefit. But when you start getting those kind of punches with a big position, well, I realize, okay, if I'm having this bad, maybe I should have adjusted the position before, something like that. When you start thinking, then I realize, okay, if I feel this way and I'm already quite trained after 10 years of investing, I had many ups and down, even with very concentrated portfolios. If I feel this way, it means that the average investor that has not this kind of train, or maybe is not really confident in what he was buying, because maybe just bought Palantir above 120 because he heard someone on YouTube, not you, but some random YouTuber talking about, but because now Palantir is the next big AI stock and stuff like that.
1000x, baby.
So if I got that feeling, imagine how felt all these other investors that maybe were down like 30-40% like that, and it was literally in a month, month and a half. So it was very, very brutal. So overall, I reached the point where I expected some reversal to happen. Personally, I was having a chat with some friends saying, okay, look, when the market is so skewed towards one direction, everybody's so convinced we just go down. There was this tweet from the long investor 100K account. Palantir will drop 50% from now. It's like, okay. That is where you know that the probabilities of a reversal are in your favor. Personally, I didn't expect such a violent move.
Did he say that during this whole meltdown, Palantir will drop 50%? Did you see that recently?
Exactly before the opening of Monday, when it was 67.
Wow.
That's why after, like, I commented after the spike, look, guy, it doesn't really look like a 50% drop this.
Do you know how long these people have been waiting? Like, we used to talk about like how much flack and hate we got on X for liking Palantir and trying to understand Palantir, and all of these people like, yeah, it's crazy. Look at the PE, look at the price to sales, and these people started saying that in like the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, 60s, all the way 125. They're like, no, but now it's definitely the most overvalued. Like, and they just keep being wrong. Imagine then seeing Palantir moving down with the markets as
Yep.
if it's like a Palantir, uniquely Palantir getting dropped. They're like, see, told you guys. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? But
go ahead.
now I was going to transition into tariffs in general, and that we probably might see just another drop below fair value again. Like, it's not like, oh yeah, it's done and over. I mean, we have no resolutions, but just finish your thoughts first. And
well, I just wanted to give a shout out to this big account because
dude, I muted this guy a long time ago. I mean, these types of people, it's so funny because look, at 125, was it getting ridiculous in terms of expensiveness, valuation, etc.? Yeah, of course. So them claiming a victory of 125 to 80 is like some aggressive drop. It's like, first of all, the entire market fell with it, so it's not like Palantir uniquely fell. Second of all, it's like, yeah, stocks get really expensive sometimes. There's a lot of momentum. They chill back down. But if you're telling me we go from 125 to 80 and the majority of the community was buying at like a maximum at 20, I mean, come on, dude. Like, you don't really have an argument there. And so are they right that price to sales, PE, all that stuff? Yeah, they could be right about that. But the reason they never invested early is because they never understood the qualitative aspects of Palantir. And Palantir, oh, wow.
Ooh.
This is a really special guest.
look who woke up.
Hi.
No, she's not. She's way too.
We're talking about it, how your dad bought Palantir at like $10.
Olivia, say hey. No,
She hates
she's
you.
way too shy.
She's
Wait,
like,
I'm gonna try to put her to bed again. Give me a second.
all right.
guys. I'll be
We'll
back.
see you in a bit. Anyway, I was saying it's like these people, they never understood the qualitative elements of it. They never understood Karp. They never understood the dynamic that Karp has in terms of his leadership and impact on the company. They never understood the employees, the culture. And these are things that, you know, professional Wall Street guys would be like, none of that shit matters. What's the numbers? What's the revenue growth? What's the net income margins? And that stuff really matters. But it matters when a company is in growth phase and everyone's discovered it. When no one cares about it, which is when this community started getting formed, you don't have any of that stuff. All you have is like the intangibles. And I think the fact that those accounts are still so focused on the stuff that relatively is not that important a decade from now. What's more important is, what's the leadership like? What's the churn rate like? Why do employees want to be at the company? They fail to care about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the sad part about this.
Look, I'm not generally like that. You know, I don't try to be like, look at how bad she was, like stuff like that. Like I'm a bit trolly sometimes, but something that really makes me nervous is like after a drop, seeing something like that comment, literally at the bottom, saying, "Oh, 50% drop incoming." Okay, why? Well, because my chart tells me so. Like that really makes me mad. And then when you have when you make them notice, look, you said 50% down, and actually the stock is 30% up in a day since your comment. They answer, Arny, you don't say something you will regret later. I've schooled you before. It's like when I see this kind of arrogance, makes me even more convinced that I have a theory that when someone stupid is very confident and can't back his opinions, he's probably wrong.
It's the same thing we've been seeing with Robinhood, right? Like the people that think they're so intellectual about all the problems that Robinhood has, but fail to look at any of the good things and say it's guaranteed. It's like whenever someone guarantees something, I feel like you should already be skeptical. It's just weird when people say that.
Look, I think the both of us are extremely happy when there is a constructed bull case, bear case, especially the bear case. For instance, I think our best blessing was having creators, good creators like Joseph Carson, making bear arguments on Palantir, because that made us think. We know Joseph Carson is a good investor. He has a very structured, safe approach. And when he speaks, you want to listen to his opinion and then to try to ask, okay, here I agree, here I don't agree. And here again, I don't agree. And I remember we had multiple discussions. I also made a video just breaking down all the points, because the conversation around all those points gave us the confidence of, okay, I could be wrong, but I'm confident that I can rationally have an argument towards every bear point that they were making.
Yeah, that's the thing. You and I think any person who wants to be an investor that like is doing this for a long time, we want to hear the bear case desperately. Like we want a good bear case. And in 2022, the bear case was that they couldn't sell, and we analyzed it every single week. With Hood, it's not a diversified business. It's cyclical with the market. Like that's a real bear case. But then when you see the stupid bear cases, you're like, oh, that person's an idiot. And this is really good, because if there's more idiots like him, that means there's alpha. Because if everyone knows about the stock, there's no more alpha. And that's where you get ridiculous prices. And you can easily tell when there's an idiotic argument. Usually it's just based on emotion or ad hom attacks or whatever. Oh. And then we have alpha to be able to have an arbitrage.
So I have a question for you. What's the dump take? Like, what's the bad perception that there is right now still for us so that we can have some alpha?
On Palantir?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great question for the chat. What is the bear case that you feel people still actually make that could be a legitimate reason to be dismissed, right? Like a bear case that's just relatively stupid at the end.
Because when we were at 120, I think we were all agreeing, look, the company is just perfect, but at least we all, like the community, we are agreeing, look, there is a bear case on the valuation, we are aware of it, but once we are aware of it, it becomes like less risky. But as of today, I still struggle. Okay, what is the big bear case? The valuation still, there is something operationally speaking that maybe we are missing. Is AI overhyped, as someone in the comment shared?
Emir, the question is, what is the bear case, or what is the bear case that people are saying that is like a stupid bear case still on Palantir? Is there
What's
any
our alpha?
Yeah, what's our alpha?
To be honest, I haven't really seen people, like, for how big it got, the haters kind of dissipated. Like the only bear case people will cite in public is like the PE or the price to sales ratio. But actually, they don't really talk about the business since like forever. But there is an actual bear case for me. Like the only bear case on a fundamental level is Europe. It is a major issue. And it's not so much Palantir problem, but it's like kind of a cap on their addressable market. If they can only, like, the growth in the US is amazing, but it's not anytime soon, but sooner or later they will cap out that growth in the US. Of course, Japan, South Korea is growing pretty well. To our understanding, they're balancing out Europe. But yeah, international is a bit of a struggle. And also there's a lot of uncertainty in regards to NATO spending, stuff like that. I mean, the US government as a whole, like more and more agencies within the US government are spending with Palantir increasingly. Like the growth is amazing, but like the international part is the only bear case that I can see. And much of that is not really Palantir themselves. I mean, we've seen due to regulation, due to politics, like for example, in Germany, Palantir was operational within the German government or police force. It was removed, it was brought back. Like there's a lot of tensions there. But yeah, if I was to say one bear case, it would be the international growth for now. I think over time they will come to a realization. I mean, the euro area grew GDP at 0.8%. I mean, the economy is collapsing. Like they need to come to an understanding that over regulating everything and caring more about like plastic bottle caps rather than the economy, the time it takes to like reach a decision, like to pass regulations to like build, or like just being so anti business, like it doesn't work. And I think they'll come to that realization soon, and that's when Palantir can actually start to grow within Europe. But we're just seeing this slow bleed out in Europe as of right now. Like we have had quarters with like declines in revenue. It's like the only segment of Palantir that has ever seen a decline in revenue. And
Arny, you agree? Europe, that's the only bear case?
Well, that on the business side, that's probably the biggest issue. That now is, how can I say, managed by the fact that the US is growing so fast in both segments, both the commercial, both the government, that can help sustain the results in terms of percentage growth, and more importantly, in terms of narrative, because for as long, like despite Wall Street doesn't fully capture the power of the company, Wall Street still really well understands that the US commercial market is way bigger and more appealing, more important than the AI market in Europe. On the government side, I think we will see some major developments, which could potentially be a risk, but at the end of the day, I believe it is not a risk, that the Pentagon is shaping up stuff. Right now, the Pentagon says it's sending $5 billion worth of IT and consulting contracts with firms including Accenture and Deloitte. This makes me think of what we were hearing by Sham, Karp, like Doge is actually benefiting them. We don't know if they are working directly with Doge or not, but I think we are starting to seeing the output of it. And the speculation on my side is right now, Palantir is more popular than Accenture and Deloitte. Like maybe not in terms of overall world awareness, okay? But I believe that, like my speculation is, if Palantir were included in these cuts, in these 5 trillion cuts, it would have been a better headline for the newspaper to include Palantir in the headline.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't include it makes me think, okay, Palantir is not affected by this. And if Palantir is not affected by this, it is probably benefiting from from these cuts, because it means that, as we were sharing weeks ago, when we were discussing the post that I made about Doge, but overall we were agreeing the fact that if the government realizes, okay, in order to solve our problems, we don't need to hire more people, but we need to actually have less people, more focused, more powered with AI, with software, we can actually do more. So we literally can do more with less. So I believe at this point, thanks to Elon Musk presence, all the board of people that around Trump that are very tech savvy, there is an inevitable push toward the tech that makes me think, okay, this is screaming Palantir. The fact that Palantir was not mentioned among these $5 trillion cuts makes me even more confident of probably the direction that has just started in the past quarters, where we saw again a very good recovery of the US government. I think that was the thing that even the most bulls were not ignoring, but were not really grasping of, oh, the US government can accelerate that much, that fast. Because that was a push, if I remember correctly, the last quarter of the US government was a 40% growth year on year.
Yeah, it was exactly 40%. Yep.
So that literally pushed the results from around 30 to 35%. And imagine if, thanks to this push from Doge, we see the continuation of this speed.
We had the Carp smirk, right? When he was asked about Doge. I mean, like, maybe it shows up in the numbers or not, but it doesn't look like he's upset about what Doge is doing.
That smile, the luminous smile.
Didn't GM say something to that effect during the Q4 earnings as well when they asked them? He said, like, this actually benefits us. Like, when you are forced to actually only spend on things that provide value, like it's Palantir. And also, like, they were so quick when this whole tariff thing started. Like, okay, we have a product for tariffs now. Let us help you solve your supply chains, your logistics, like everything. Like, they're so on top of things. Like, execute. Actually, U.S. government grew 45% year on year. So, but it was inevitable that Pentagon was going to slash all these PowerPoint contracts, and I think it really exposes people. And to your effect, I think, like, during if it was AIP Con or just some event right after, like, they had XAI devs presenting together with Palantir. I mean, they're obviously close, so I would believe that Elon Musk has a pretty good idea of what Palantir does, and it's probably highly likely that if they are looking, I mean, didn't Google just get a contract to, like, they were going to switch to digital within some agency? Like 90% was on paper, it's now switching to digital, and Google got a deal like that. Wasn't that just yesterday? So I think, like, the reshaping of US government, we know how legacy it is. Like, we used to joke, like, yeah, Palantir, like, partnered up with Berkshire Energy, like, perfect pathway for Palantir to get into those legacy businesses and operationalize and digitize everything. Like, the US government, like, we're talking like mines from 70 years ago. Like, if we're talking legacy, the US government is extremely legacy and ripe for Palantir to come up and clean house. So yeah, I think it's very bullish overall for Palantir.
I think last week we were discussing a clip from Elon Musk disclosing that the government still has, like, a lot of documents related to pensions or stuff segregated in real caves.
Yeah, the mines. We can only retire 8,000 people because that's how, like, per month, because that's how fast the elevator goes to go in and out. I'm like, dude, it's crazy. And, like, the whole payments thing, like, when he came out and said, like, yeah, we can't pass on audit because we can't trace the payments the US government makes, because literally the computers are so old that they don't have, like, any like, they don't support tech to even track the payments made. You're like, what is going on? Is this the US government? Like, it's just so crazy, like, this whole situation. So I think overall, I would be very surprised to see Palantir actually get hit. Instead, I actually suspect that we will see a lot of contracts awarded to Palantir as they reform the tech side of the US government. I think it's just inevitable. Just like it was inevitable that all these like fancy steak dinners, white teeth, and golf courses brought a lot of PowerPoint contracts. They're now getting slashed. And just like Carr predicted, like all these years ago, like, you should people should write a book on, like, all of Alex Karp's predictions, because it's just a matter of time, and then it just starts happening the way that he foretold, like, prophecies.
I agree. And obviously, Palantir is a company that has always done things differently. And this is our last topic of the day, but they did something differently again. College is broken, writes Palantir. Admissions are flawed based on flawed criteria. Meritocracy and excellence are no longer the pursuits of educational institutions. Chaos has ensued on university campuses. Starting today, Palantir is launching a fall fellowship for the best and brightest graduating high school students based solely on merit and academic excellence. Students will be invited for interviews. Select applicants will receive an internship offer at Palantir. Upon completion, successful interns will be offered a full-time role. Arny, your reaction to Palantir basically saying, we don't care anymore about college. We care about who's the best and the brightest.
Well, we know that That's perfectly aligned with the philosophy of the company. It's a bit still surprising because probably still a very big chunk of Palantir employees come from Stanford. So, and we know that Palantir is mainly targeting like very good universities. It seems a big deal. I personally struggle to realize how big a deal it is, because from my eyes in Europe is more like, okay, you make your undergraduate, then you make your master, especially in Italy, then you start looking for a job. Like that's the mentality. And probably if you start, like if you shared something like this in Italy, that would not make a lot of noise. But at the other end, I believe in the US, that makes a lot of sense because, well, just entering into these universities is crazy difficult. There is a lot of, how can I say, a lot of paywall there. But more importantly, it really costs a lot. Like for an European mind, how much your colleges, like your universities cost is literally out of mind. And if you can literally bypass that and start generating value 3-5 years earlier, that's something very big. And perfectly aligns also with what TL has been ranting about for more than 10 years. Like Peter Thiel was saying, look, these universities are a bubble like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think this announcement is very in line with the Thiel Fellowship, which for those that don't know, instead of going to college, I believe you get $100,000 and a couple years to go like build a startup, build an idea. And we've had some pretty successful people that have taken that Thiel Fellowship. To me, Palantir's still going to hire the best of the best from like the Ivy Leagues. It's not like they're saying we're not hiring Harvard grads, but they're just saying you don't have to get that degree. If you are the best of the best at 18, you can apply for an internship. And if you're already showing that you have the potential, we don't need the Ivy League degree to verify that. Now, granted, even those people will be a select group of the population because it's very competitive to get a job. But I think more companies are going to have to adopt this because I think more and more companies are kind of getting tired with some of the way that the universities are imposing their values. I mean, it's the elephant in the room, but we all know that universities are starting to become a lot more biased than they were in the past. And Karp has spoken out and says like he thinks it's full of shit. And so it's not like they're going to not care about Stanford anymore, but I just think they're willing to look at other people that are young and bright. And so I think it's a good idea. And I think it's going to bring a lot of new talent to the company.
Well, I don't know how much was this already common, but for instance, in banking, the best way when you are in London to get into Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, these kind of top tier companies is through a full internship, because it's relatively less crowded. And the idea is that if you are already that fast in applying, it means that essentially you already had your ideas clear and you really are craving to start working ASAP rather than, first I study, then I apply.
I think this is just as you mentioned, this is just an extension of what Palantir was already kind of doing. I mean, they've been pretty outspoken about the failure of these colleges and the universities for quite a while now, and only hiring the brightest and most excellent people has been a staple for Palantir since forever. And that's obvious when you look at employee efficiency metrics like we've been doing historically. I recall there was an engineering code interview prep book like that people would buy like before they actually apply to major businesses, like the equivalent of Mag 7s about a decade ago, like before Palantir was public. And it like tells you how to approach your interviews, and that specific book used to have a specific page only for applying to Palantir. Like out of the whole book, they dedicated one page like, okay, this is how you apply to Palantir and get a job at Palantir. And if you read around, like if you go like historically on the archives, like Palantir was one of the highest regarded workplaces to actually get a job at. And as Carp has been saying, like the Palantir degree is like so valuable to everyone. Like if you want to get a like job anywhere, like if you have the Palantir degree, that's worth a lot. So I think the fellowship is a nice way to incentivize these unique talents, because it's a huge risk, right, that you take to your career. Like, okay, I'm gonna cancel my plans for college, for university, I'm gonna go and apply for an internship at Palantir. And that as a career starter is very interesting. And I mean, it aligns perfectly with Palantir of doing things differently, where they only care about the outcomes, not so much like who you are on paper, but what you can actually deliver in terms of value. It also aligns with what Palantir is doing. Like Palantir, as we've been discussing, it's not the most attractive business, like on the steak dinner side and PowerPoint side. Like, no, like you might hate us, but you will want to have us because we deliver what actually matters, which is value. So I think this is typically Palantir and just an extension of what they're already doing. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what comes out of it over time.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's just an extension of what they've been doing, and recruitment's going to be even more challenging as AI becomes more important and talent becomes more diversified. So they've got to get. I mean, again, the really unique thing about this company, I've been privileged enough to speak to a lot of the employees. They truly are some of the smartest people on the planet, and some of them are super creative, some of them are super analytical, most of them are analytical and creative, and almost all of them are autonomous. Like they just get shit done. They do it in their own way. They don't need to be micromanaged, and you got to keep finding those people to keep the culture alive.
Mm-hmm. Look, one of the peculiarities of Palantir is that, especially these last years, they've been able to grow a lot with relatively stable or even fewer people. I wonder, is this a hint that the demand is so high they need to hire more people that are really craving to start?
You know, I heard something, like, obviously I can't confirm or deny this, but someone approached me privately, works at like pretty large company, and they've been like scheduled to have talks with Palantir to sit down and talk. Like I got this comment probably in January, December, so this is a while ago. They're like, dude, we can't, like, we want to get Palantir, but we can't even schedule like a talk for like 6 months now. The reason that they get is that, no, we have to prioritize larger contracts. So obviously there is a constraint, like they are employee constrained on like how much they can take on. And on one side, that's very bullish because people are like lining up and piling up, like, no, we want to have Palantir, but like they have to prioritize, like, no, this is more important for us right now. So it kind of creates this like Ferrari thing. You know how Ferrari, they only produce just enough cars that the demand is always one more than they actually have. So there's always this extreme demand of Ferraris at all times. So it kind of feels like there's some exclusivity to Palantir right now, where like people are like, no, like we're really being queuing up here to have like just talks with Palantir, and they just don't have time. So it kind of makes sense what Arny is saying, that they are kind of constrained now, like, and that surely affects growth. Like if they can't just tackle the whole TAM available to them right now. So people saying like the growth at Palantir is capped, like, yeah, they grew 36%. How are they going to keep increasing that growth? Well, I'm not too worried about that for now. I think we have a long runway of growth.
The peculiar stuff about Ferrari is that on one side, they produce fewer cars than they are actually willing to they could potentially sell. Okay, so they create like scarcity in the offering, but at the same time, you don't choose a Ferrari. Even if you are a billionaire and you say, oh, I want a Ferrari, that's not a guarantee that you will get a Ferrari. It's Ferrari that chooses you as a customer.
Yeah, it's not about money. Yeah.
Because they essentially need to be sure that you will increase the value of the brand by you having around a Ferrari. And if a Ferrari believes you're not a good fit, that your values are not aligned with the Ferrari values, they say, you know what? We don't sell you the car. If you do something Ferrari doesn't like taking a Ferrari and making a wrap on it, Ferrari takes your car away.
They're allowed to take the car back?
Yes. And there are
Dude,
even
you have to
stars.
sign so much stuff if you want to buy a retail Ferrari, dude. It's very difficult to get one.
Like there are a lot of very celebrities that can't buy a Ferrari any longer because maybe they took it, they had bad behavior, or they were they're associated with a kind of lifestyle that Ferrari doesn't want.
So Ferraris are more in demand than Lambos then?
Absolutely more.
Dude, it's not even close.
The difference is
you can just go buy and you can go to any dealership now and just buy a Lambo. Like you can't just buy a Ferrari. It's not about how much money you have. Like you have to attend events, you have to go to F1 races, you have to socialize within the Ferrari club. You have to do a lot of things just to be able to buy one. Like they, as Arny was saying, they create this scarcity and exclusivity. Like you have to align with their values to even be able to buy one. Like it's not about money.
I think it was Justin Bieber that had a Ferrari that he wrapped. Therefore, Ferrari said, you know what? You are now in the blacklist. Give us our Ferrari back.
And how does this tie to Palantir now? Tie the...
Yeah, it's just about how selective they are with the clients and then trying to fulfill demand. I actually have a friend, international, who works at a pretty big company as well that is starting to pilot test Palantir, and he's very excited about it. But it does feel like the brand is bringing in more organic people that want to work with them. And like when I was at AIPCon, these customers, they want to share their story because they realize that being next to one of the hottest AI companies in the world that everyone cares about, that also is providing real transformative value for them. Like that's a really symbiotic relationship. And when you have more and more companies around the world that even just being close to Palantir makes them seem more oriented as a data-driven organization, more AI-oriented, et cetera, and then the software actually works, like it should be a flurry of demand I think we see over the next couple of years that is pretty substantial.
Yeah, I think the best thing from AIPCon, like if we just like take away like all the use cases, the latest AIPCon had I think it was Heineken, like some brewery, like famous brewery. I think it was Heineken.
Yeah.
Okay, he came up and said, I sat in this audience not even knowing what Palantir was 6 months ago at an AIPCon. I attended it. I was like, I don't know what this is. 6 months later, not only did they implement Palantir, get Palantir, start to use Palantir, but they are so mature with the product that he feels confident to go on stage and share how their use is for Palantir. Like, do you know how powerful that is? Like when you like have no idea what it is, you attend an AIPCon, 6 months later, you're so mature that you can actually present about it and keep selling. So that's why I think like AIPCons are so powerful when people go up and say like, yeah, this is how we're creating value, and you ought to be doing that as well. And that Coldtrap has been saying about the development community, because Palantir has been finding ways to scale. Obviously, we had the first iteration of Carp calling around trying to sell the product alone. That worked to a degree for like the Fortune 500s. Like he can take a call one by one and sell Palantir. Then we tried like an actual sales force. Didn't go so well. Then we had the bootcamp strategy, and AIP launched, and now we finally got some scaling, but even that is constrained. Like a bootcamp, how many clients can it fit? Like 6 to 8. It's like a 3-day bootcamp. You have to do it. Like even if they involve consultancies, which we know that, I don't know if it was Accenture or if it was PwC, but some consultancies are actually holding their own bootcamps now to sell Palantir and like do this. So there is scale there, but as Coldtrap has been saying, the next step here is to actually have an active developer community where you can build like this whole force of engineers that are out there in the workforce. Like we're seeing like Palantir experience being so valuable when you look at LinkedIn, like job listings and stuff. Like people are really looking for Palantir experience. So as we build out this dev community, as more people get familiar with the product, I think it will be a lot easier to keep scaling more and more over time. I think we're just getting started. Like, people still that attend AIP cons, like even the one before this one, they're like, I have no idea what Palantir is. Like, this is still super, super early. They're just finding their way. So very exciting times ahead.
I believe you shared very, very good points. And I would say the bottom line is just when you have two angles. On one side, the company can choose the clients. When the company doesn't need to just get clients to show, oh, please, like, we generate revenue. Like, when you can actively choose, okay, we really want to work with this client because it's more strategical to us, because it aligns more with our values and so on. That creates a lot of effects in the future. But when that is combined with customers being attracted by your brand, by your stories, that creates a synergic loop that makes very good things to happen. I think we just need to be patient.
Are we gonna?
Because-
oh, sorry. Go.
No, because now in our mind, Palantir is a 30% grower, but given the constellation of good things that are around, given how strong the momentum is for AI agents, all these related stuff, and the brand Palantir is building, we don't have to exclude that we could see a period of much more than 30% CAGR.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say that because that has been the assumption for, I think, all of us here, that the 30% is more like a baseline according to our understanding, but how much more? However, the question that has to be posed is, well, we do have the art of the deal going around here. What kind of impact are we expecting to see from that? Because it's very uncertain times. As I mentioned, to me, Palantir like thrives in both environments, right? But we still don't have a resolution, so we don't know the extent of it. I think are we gonna talk like tariff impacts, or are we saving that? Because I think it could be an interesting talk. Like, a lot of things happen.
I mean, we can just spend like 10 more minutes on it. We talked about it last week as well, but yeah, in your opinion, how do you think the tariffs could be a negative or positive for the business?
No, I think I just briefly shared that when I said that I bought that, where I think like it's not really an impact to Palantir, but it could create a lot more demand depending on the outcomes. I mean, as I said, they already rolled out a product for tariffs, solving supply chains, logistics. We're already like, the impact is not so much what happens with Palantir, it's more what's implied for every other business, because Palantir itself is pretty anti-fragile, but when you have Apple flying 5 planes of iPhones out of China, like in sheer desperation, because that's what it is, it's like sheer desperation to avoid tariffs, like just before the tariffs kick in, and you have like India signing a deal with the US, or like in talks of wanting to sign a deal. And then you have like supply chains shifting from one country to another, like these major things happening. Like, there's a lot going on now. There's a lot of uncertainty. And I think Palantir is one of the go-tos, like, okay, we need stuff to happen fast. That's when the warp speeds come into play. I always found it interesting because one of the selling points of warp speed, even though I do not understand the product like that detailed, but the one quote that stuck with me is like, okay, you can build your product here as if you were building it back home. Like, the example was, we got these Japanese companies, they're building out factories in the same exact way that they're doing it in Japan. Like, and I think this is a perfect example of where warp speed can really do a lot for different businesses, but also for Palantir. But the approach I was talking about more was like the stock price. Like we said, I mentioned that I bought for the first time at 65, and we mentioned about the volatility, but like, we're nowhere done yet. Like, the markets are very, very nervous. Like, one tweet can send the stock down 30%, can send it up 30%. Like, who knows? Like, do you guys? When do you guys expect a resolution? Because I think we can all agree it was obvious that the initial policies of like this like reciprocal tariffs, they weren't gonna stick around. If it's obvious to everyone, like to me, to Arny, to chatters, to like everyone, of course it's also obvious to Trump that it's not sustainable. So it was only a matter of time. Then we got the okay, pause for 90 days for everyone except China. And then we got all of this like, yeah, art of the deal, baby, going around. And then it crashed after that as well, after we got that initial rally where Palantir went from 65 to like 93. And then like things are going on. Like, what do you guys expect? How long do you expect this to like keep happening? Do you expect we'll see more opportunities in the Palantir share price? Because I was kind of bummed. I made an initial buy at 65, but I was kind of hoping like, man, if we see the 50s, like I was kind of hoping for the 50s, even though I bought at 65. So what do you guys think in relation to that, like market volatility as a whole? Because Palantir is very high beta to the market. So whatever the market does, likely Palantir is going to do an X amount of that. So give me your guys' thoughts. I think it's an interesting conversation to have. I think everything we've been talking about for an hour and 15 minutes is not important. People want to know where's the stock price going.
Look, I say this, then I literally need to rush out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll end it after Arny's. Go ahead.
There are so many things that I would leave a bit of a conversation open for the next times.
Yeah.
And for our conversation on XR or whatever. The tariffs are a chaos. When you have a complex system, you have an exogenous variable that shakes the system, you call it chaos. And what we know is chaos is actually good for Palantir. It's good because essentially it creates the need and it creates the awareness of I need to solve this chaos. And how you solve this chaos is exactly software. So given this chaos, we know Palantir is the answer. Now, that means that smart companies are already working with Palantir or already in the conversation with Palantir with, okay, help us solve this chaos. But there is a couple of two sides. On one side, US companies are more embracing AI. So that creates a very big boost and a big demand for Palantir. On the other side, there could be further damage, let's call it this way, or friction on the European side, because now with this chaos, Trump is not seeing that positively as maybe initially seen. Companies, especially in Europe, need good conditions, like quiet conditions to say, oh, now we invest a lot in software. But at the same time, the US being seen as not the enemy, but the kind of unfriendly partner right now could create further friction into adopting US software. Even if US software, namely Palantir, is exactly what they need to do, especially because while the US economy is mainly pushed by software companies, and software doesn't really have supply chains apart from Amazon. Okay, there is the cloud, but more or less like the big chunk is driven by software. On the European side, all the economy is driven by manufacturing companies. And they have a hell of work, a hell of chaos with these tariffs.
We kind of need Europe to get some Stockholm syndrome. Like, okay, yeah, we're being held hostage by the US here, but we're actually starting to like the US. We kind of need some Stockholm syndrome to develop here.
Well, give some time so that the American companies become so good that they start eating the lunch of the European ones, and maybe someone will wake up.
Yeah, my quick thoughts on macro, I think, are on tariffs. I think we're gonna get deals. I think we'll get deals done. Obviously, the bond market is been a bit scary this week with yields rising higher, and that's not good if stocks are going down. But I think Trump will give clarity to the markets as they get deals done, particularly with China. In terms of Palantir, I think if companies are affected by tariffs, then they should be using more Palantir software to figure out how to navigate it. And potentially Palantir should be getting more demand from companies that don't use their software to figure out how to use their software to navigate tariffs. Chad and Ilyana were on Spaces with me and Arny this weekend. They basically said, hey, we are talking to a lot of customers about how to navigate tariffs. So I think it's a tailwind more than a headwind. It's a headwind if we get into a recession. It's a tailwind if this is negotiated in like a month or two.
Yeah, let's see how the next week develops, and then we can start with the stock price that everyone cares about more than hearing us yap about fundamentals and things. So,
all right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all. We'll be back next Friday on another episode of Palantir Weekly. Matt couldn't join us this week, but he'll be back next week, and we'll see you guys then.
See you then. Earnings soon.
Yo.
Bye, everyone.